We had a great discussion.
And now moving on, viewers, the Kremlin has reportedly denied that Russia or China carried out any secret nuclear talks, noting that Beijing has also rejected recent U.S. accusations. Earlier this month, the United States alleged that China conducted an underground nuclear test in June 2020. U.S. officials say seismic data from a remote station in Kazakhstan recorded a small explosion at China's LOP North test site, which they claim matches the characteristics of a nuclear blast rather than mining activity or a natural earthquake. However, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization says the data is too limited to confirm the cause of the events with certainty. Meanwhile, China has dismissed the allegation as entirely unfounded, describing it as a political attempt to justify renewed U.S. nuclear testing. These claims by the U.S. comes as President Donald Trump presses China to join the U.S. and Russia in negotiating a replacement for the New START Treaty, which is the last strategic nuclear arms limitation pact between Washington and Moscow that reportedly expired on February 5 this year. Experts warn that the treaty's expiration could raise the risk of an accelerated global nuclear arms race, though others caution that these concerns may be overstated. Joining me now for this discussion is independent China strategist Andrew K.P. Leong. He joins us from Hong Kong. Mr. Leong, thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, how do you see the fact that it has taken U.S. as many as 6 years to raise this alarm? Apparently, it alleges that the test was conducted in 2020. So why now in 2026 has it repeated that accusation?
Well, of course, the new nuclear arm testing ban between the United States and Russia is going to expire shortly. And of course, this raised alarm bells, not only between these two countries, but around the world. So this is fact number one. Fact number two, the current nuclear warheads nowadays are so destructive that they can destroy the whole world, let alone the two countries, the whole world, many times over, because they are multiple times more powerful than those dropped in Japan at the end of the Second World War. So I think that you look at the total number of warheads, nuclear warheads already stockpiled. Russia, according to some estimates, has 4,309 warheads. The latest warheads, don't forget, they are multiple times more powerful than those dropped in Nagasaki in Hiroshima. And the United States has 3,700, still a very substantial number. And China is about only 600. So China is now is multiple times the stockpile much lower. But as I said, these warheads are much more powerful, and it makes little sense of increasing the total number of stockpiles on the surface, because sometimes modern warfare, especially nuclear warfare, highlights the conundrum of the so-called first strike and second strike. The first strike is that a country tries to annihilate the stockpiles of his opponent. That's the first strike. But if there are sufficient warheads in different areas in the opponent, then the opponent can mount a counter attack in the second strike. So this is theory. Although in this theory assumes that either the first strike or any kind of exchanges wouldn't destroy the world over, as I highlighted earlier. So in that context, while Russia has got 4,309 modern warheads, US 3,007, and China 600. Naturally, China wants to restore the balance, if only to maintain the credibility of a second strike. Now, this does not say, it does not confirm that China in fact conducted a nuclear testing, because as I said, this war is already very, very powerful, multiple times more powerful than those dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So whether there is China in fact conducted the testing remains to be seen, but the whole thing has got to be looked at in the context which I've just outlined.
All right, sure. Should one really be skeptical about the end of the START treaty, because there are fears and concerns rising of countries rushing or racing for a nuclear arsenal, building. But CTBTO, of course, continues to say there's not enough evidence to suggest that.
Well, the other question in this discussion is related to the spread of nuclear arms around the world, as countries find that the only insurance policy against being bullied is to develop a nuclear weapon, especially small countries which are subject to US coercion. Think North Korea. For example, the Kim Jong-un regime has been fed up with the so-called six-party talks, and Trump's initial threat of fire and fury, followed by a handshake across the border with him. But at the end, it resulted in nothing. The United States refused to even ease any kind of sanctions against North Korea unless North Korea surrender all its nuclear weapons totally. Well, that's, of course, is not the way that the North Korea thinks what should be a kind of negotiation. And hence, the North Korea is now hell-bound to build up its nuclear armament capabilities together with long-range missile delivery systems. The fear is that if the nuclear testing is conducted by the US or Russia or even China, this could spur other countries to develop their nuclear weapons. And let's not forget that many countries are on the verge of reaching full capability of developing these weapons. And if that happens, this could stabilize a lot of the dynamics in the Asia Pacific, in the Southeast Asia, and in the Middle East and around the world. And that's no good for any countries, not for China, not for the United States, not for the world. And that's a much more important question to consider in this discussion over nuclear testing.
All right, Mr. Leong, thanks very much then for joining us with your assessment in this discussion. And we now move on, viewers. Turkey's Parliamentary Peace Commission has finalized a draft